let's bring the discussion now down to maybe a little bit more of a ground level, get a little bit more tactical with what's happening in the industry right now. So how do leading companies actually scale hands-on learning without losing that technical depth that they need? So to answer that, we've brought together two incredible voices, one from Elastic, one from MongoDB. Please join me in welcoming Amanda Saavedra, Value Operations Director at Elastic, and Eoin Brazil, Senior Staff Engineer at MongoDB. Together, they're going to share some real-world lessons from their day-to-day lives in this session, hands-on at scale, real tactics that actually work. Let's jump right in. So to kick things off, I want you to kind of give some quick context, in a minute or two for each of you. What is your org own? Maybe give a little bit of a overview of what you do, and what kind of scale are we talking about when we're talking about each of your roles and each of your usages of hands-on learning.
All right. So my name is Amanda Saavedra. My title is Value Operations Director, but I'm actually Chief of Staff for our GVP of Solutions Architecture here at Elastic, Nick Drost. Our Solutions Architecture organization is our pre-sales organization. We have about 330 now SAs in our organization, so we're growing fast, just like Elastic's growing fast. I also do provide some support for our customer architects, which are our post-sales technical support as well, helping with scaling consumption and adoption of Elastic. So my focus and my role is kind of the pre-sales and post-sales. We do have Instruqt scaling to our education teams and our marketing teams as well. But today I'll be kind of focused on those two roles in particular. And in terms of scale, our teams primarily run live workshops with customers. We do target about one per month for those, I would say about 450 individuals to help scale our hands-on learning with our customers.
I'm Eoin. I'm a senior staff engineer in the education org and MongoDB, and we were the first part of MongoDB to adopt Instruqt. So MongoDB, some of you might know, it's an enterprise class database platform, about 60K customers. We add about 200K developers every month. And I suppose our learning charter in education is to reach out and help as many people and customers to learn MongoDB. So that's about 1 million between all of this. Education includes our docs team. So we started using Instruqt in education, but right now it's across a whole pile of functions: our customer engineering, which would be our support folks, our technical pre-sale folks, our professional services, our consultancy folks, as well as our developer relation folks. And we can talk a little bit more, and we will, about the tactics we used in, I think, Amanda as well, to kind of reach out and deal with that. I think in our case, we started as a platform team, and I think that's where you should look at the Instruqt education piece of MongoDB. I think, yeah, that's the scale we're at.
Definitely sets the stage. Definitely gives us a sense of the scale you guys are working at too. I mean, obviously, both of you guys are working at pretty significant scale. Let's talk about maybe now a little bit how that scale is going to meet the customer experience. So both Elastic and MongoDB are powerful products, but they're also pretty complex. What were the barriers to getting customers hands-on, and how did labs actually change that? And I'll toss it to you first, and then we'll go back to Amanda.
So, thanks, John. We started, as I think a lot of people did, with homebrewed solutions. We built various things, and the key problem we had was configuration and setup in whatever we built. This is the real problem in terms of the learner experience. Once we moved to Instruqt, we were able to simplify and remove a lot of the problems there. Suddenly, instead of spending up to 15 minutes configuring, downloading, doing all the pieces, the learner, the student, would jump straight in, connected to a cluster at the prompt, doing exactly what we wanted to teach them and what they wanted to learn. And that was really a huge jump for us, because all of a sudden we went from that 15 minutes of dead time. And I think one of the key pieces, and I'll come across today as well, people are time poor and they want the information sooner. So if we waste 15 minutes, that's nearly an entire lesson in some cases. So we developed our own portfolio of labs. We've shared that across the company. That was one of the secrets to bringing on board the other teams and business units. That helped them accelerate their own development times. We created a very collaborative sharing environment for all the teams. We acted as a platform team to help them adopt Instruqt, to onboard them in conjunction with yourselves. And beyond that, another key piece for us was essentially Instruqt had a fairly seamless integration with our learning management system. So we're able to move very seamlessly to the learner or to the customer from some lesson to a lab and the hands-on experience and back again. And even have customization within that to say, you know, hi Sean, hi Amanda, as you were going in that lab, and pass all that detail and pass it back. And I think we could have done that. All of that just made it, you know, very compelling for us and very seamless. And you know, I can't say any more than I love Instruqt, and I think it's the best for us, and it has really helped us.
I think I'm going to echo what Eoin said, particularly around like that delay when you get a customer hands-on. I'm a chemical engineer, if we have any chemists in the audience. The activation energy, right? Like the higher the activation energy it takes to actually overcome a chemical reaction, the less likely that reaction is to occur without overcoming it. So we don't want our customers waiting. We don't want toil. We want them getting hands-on with the feature that we're looking for them to experience as soon as possible, because in today's day and age, people have about a 90-second attention span. So we need to get them hands-on as quickly as possible. And then we also want to do it consistently too. So we want to make sure that the experience that they have is consistent versus, you know, in our past, we might have them go sign up for cloud trials, go through all the configuration. If I'm in front of 100 customers, that becomes a big burden for not just the instructor, but all the customers as well. So having hands-on labs, but also scalable hands-on labs is important for us to actually get hands-on and connect with our customers, particularly the developers and the ones that want to actually start tinkering with our software. So
great. Yeah. Taking me back to my AP Chem days in high school, but I do remember that. I'm going to stick with you, Amanda, just for a second here on this next question. So once you've kind of recognized the value of the hands-on labs, obviously the next step is to decide how to deliver those labs. So when it comes to that, you know, you can either build in-house, or you could use other tools, or as both of you guys decided to go with Instruqt. I'm curious what the non-negotiables were that kind of really kind of tipped you guys in favor of going with Instruqt.
Sure. I think one of the big things for us is reliability. I think being backed by GCP, we know that, you know, I'm not going to lose Instruqt at a critical time. When I'm in front of a customer is the last time I need my systems to go down. And consistency is another huge one for us. If I make a great track, I want to make sure that everybody that goes through that track experiences it in the exact same way, that it's predictable, it's repeatable. Everybody that's on the call that's an SA has done a demo with a surprise, and you never want surprises in front of your customer. And another big thing for us has been the collaboration. Like a lot of our team members want to work together to create content, and it makes it very easy with the permissioning and the way that we can copy tracks, make changes to tracks. Folks can collaborate on content more effectively than, say, if you were making your own ad hoc solution for a workshop. So that creates that flexibility for us to use it in a way that makes sense for us, particularly in that pre-sales and post-sales architect type role.
Great. How about you, Eoin?
And I'm going to echo pretty much everything Amanda said. I think that there were a couple of other specific elements that were important to us that we could have a collaborative review. So essentially for us, we use Git and GitHub. So the artifacts had to be able to, you know, fit that sort of developer review cycle. So that was brilliant that it was integrated with that. But essentially when it came down to the real table stakes, it was that seamless integration. Now, when we first started, and particularly in education is essentially a non-demand experience. So we can have, you know, tens, hundreds of students taking it at any time. It's not a live event. And in that scenario, everything has to come through your learning management system. It has to be seamless. You have to be able to swap back and forth across the different labs and pass the information and know who has finished what, and update the LMS to say they've done that part of the course, the learning path, whatever. And also really, because I was a curriculum engineer for years dealing with this and dealing with our poor students. None of the customization and setup problems now arise. They start in the lab doing the thing we want them to do. Prior to that, I think it was clear cut. 40%, possibly even a little bit higher, of our support issues for our learners and students were related to the setup and the configuration. So getting rid of that was like such a huge thing. And until you've actually tried to do that at scale and have hundreds. We did obviously do a bake-off against a lot of other competitors. So it wasn't that we just picked Instruqt. We looked at, I think, 5 or 6 other systems, but it was the clear winner, and frankly remains so, because we'll go through this. As we moved some of those other customer engineering teams within MongoDB onto Instruqt, they were actually on some of those other products that we had assessed. And the combination of the LMS, the smoothness, and also the live event functionality that's being built out in Instruqt meant that the folks, unlike us, who go give workshops and do conferences, can have and did have, I think your colleague Josh last week saw 300 people in one room start up a lab without any issue, and those 300 next door did the same thing. So it was able to take that without any issue.
Yeah, that's great. I think that kind of leads into a little bit of the next question here, which is, and it's specific for you, Eoin. I think I know Amanda is a little bit more focused on her team, but when you looked at rolling that unified strategy across multiple teams, where you actually needed that leadership buy-in, how did you approach getting that buy-in? Going from education to maybe more customer-facing teams. How did you guys think about that buy-in that was needed?
Initially, I suppose it was really just trying to operate as a platform team, saying, we have this, we think it's wonderful. Here's the content we have. Here's the VMs and the containers we've built. Here's our build 210. We can support you with content. We can support you with images. So initially, for some of the early teams that migrated, we helped move their content, shared our own, built their images, and that kind of open collaboration started to build an internal community in the company. So that helped them adopt it and helped them become internal advocates for it. I suppose as we've moved on, that's kind of been self-perpetuating. Other people have moved even within the company from some of those teams and become advocates in other parts of the company, again wanting to use this and replace some of those other platforms, because in these more stringent economic times, when you have a very effective lab platform, why do you have 4 or 5 of them, is often the CIO's question. And when the answer is, we have the best one here, let's move to that. Or we have one where the content exists so that you can essentially get a 6 or 8 month acceleration to the content you need. And I'll go on slightly in this. One of the things more recently that's worked for us is we offer a skills program across most of our go-to-market channels. So with developer relations, with our PS team, with customer success, with sales, we standardized on what we were calling skills, which are 60 to 90 minute sort of packages of content. We've defined the LOs, they're shared across, people can tweak the content, and we offer the skill assessments. In offering the skill assessments, there was one other piece that we insisted on, which was that the hands-on learning piece be included, and we built that on Instruqt. So that was another way to get them across, and that has had a lot of uptake. And I suppose, unlike other maybe skills programs people are offering, we're doing that in university, so in an on-demand format, but our PS folks, our DevRel folks are doing it in live workshops where the LOs are the same. So the content is mostly the same, but maybe tailored to that group. But the lab is going to be the same. are very similar.
Right.
And then the assessment then will be based on the LO. So whether you take it off university or from that workshop. And because of that focus on the go-to-market, and again, going back to Donald's tie-in to business metrics, the customer is stupid.
Yeah. I think the key to success of that scalability that we've been talking about is also there. So appreciate that perspective. Amanda, I'm going to transition over to you for this next question. I think one of the topics we often get when we're talking to larger companies who are looking for that scale is how you actually organize the administration and usage of the platform internally. It's something that I think can actually get pretty complicated if you have a number of different, say, content creators, administrators, et cetera. So when you're looking at your organization, who owns what, and how have you kind of set up the general structure?
Sure. I think Sean and I had talked about this before, but I'm probably going to bring the chaotic perspective to this because we started in pre-sales, which is a little bit more almost shotgun approach in terms of creating content. Like, we're going to make the content that's right for our customer right at this time. So our folks want to make content. Our SAs and our CAs are incredibly creative. So initially when we started this, we never wanted to stop creativity. And actually we didn't have IT or infrastructure support at that time. And that central point of contact for managing the platform was me. And I'm not a particularly technical person. I relied upon the goodwill of some wonderful engineers surrounding me to fix issues as they cropped up. But I had to wake up every day and say that I owned this platform to make it successful. So I have an internal Slack channel with all of the folks where if any issue comes up, whether it's an issue with Instruqt, an issue with a lab, a sandbox, who knows, I'm on it within 5 minutes, because the biggest piece of what we needed initially was our revenue generating side of the business to feel confident and trust the platform for us to be able to scale. If we couldn't get that success with that part of the business, we would never be able to scale past the revenue side of the business into some of the more margin-driven sides of the business, like our consulting teams and like our education teams. So that was my focus initially, but as this has grown and we've gotten bigger, it's too much for me, right? Like, I am chief of staff, right? So I've got other projects I got to manage, so I can't dedicate 100% of my time to Instruqt. So that's what, as we started to scale, where we started to say, hey, we need more support for this platform. So now we actually have an infrastructure team. There are about 8 people. We've got content teams as this is starting to move to the education side of the house, which takes that load off of me, and also make sure that we start having a governing body over everything as well. So we certainly have some lessons learned as we've started from chaos to structured that we can talk about later, but it really did go from being like a small startup-y type initiative within our organization to expanding to a more organizationally driven initiative.
Great. How about you, Eoin? What's the setup right now? You guys have obviously been on using Instruqt, I think, a little bit longer even than Elastic. So I'm curious how you might differ in your approach.
I'm feeling jealous actually, because I'm going to steal some of those lessons myself. So we're probably, in some senses, maybe slightly earlier in that path. What happened was, obviously, we had the education team, so we do actually have engineers assigned to it, but around the content and lab content rather than the lab infrastructure piece. And I'll separate those, because there are the images you can build, whether it be VM and containers, and then the sharing of the content. So what we've tried to do is have content or lab developer, track developers in each of those places, and they did exist, or we were able to get people assigned in those. And at the moment, we kind of have a couple of us, primarily myself in a similar fashion to Amanda, jumping on the variety of kind of Slack channels, some per BU, and then up to the sort of every user in MongoDB, and then into your own Slack should we need to escalate.
Right.
But I think how we organized it really was kind of more focused on firstly bringing people in and showing them the technology. And I think that was the key piece. And as that has happened and people have found value, then their VPs have seen the value and started to essentially contribute to the bottom line and to what we pay you. but it does
Right.
take time, and in a lot of cases, if they're wedded to a system, you do have to show that success and be patient. But now we're moving towards that platform team approach, giving help, more architectural if you want, or suggested patterns. And I
Mhm.
suppose the advantage we would have coming from the educational side is we have instructional designers, and we look at the features from an instructional design, usability, learner experience point of view. And as you release those new features, we are testing them and suggesting those as uplifts to the other partners using it in MongoDB to say, we found this work, or this other team have started using Jupyter Lab in this way, or using whatever feature there is there to try and
Right.
improve the experience. And that's been very important, because I think by doing that and getting the good feedback, that gets bubbled up to whichever VP, and they then are hearing good things about the lab experience, which makes
Nice.
it all easier then.
Yeah,
when it
that's
gets to
great.
the
I think this question came in maybe, Amanda, when you were talking, but for both you guys, when you're talking about dedicated content creators or a dedicated content team, how many people are you talking about?
For Elastic, that's a loaded question only because we're mid-migration right now. So that kind of size, that team for Instruqt specifically is currently growing. I believe, don't quote me on this, it's a couple dozen at this point, but I think there's more than that. So I'm going to lean on Eoin
Okay.
for that one for scale size.
No worries.
I think it's probably about 6 in some of the orgs. So I think education about 6, PS is probably about 4 or 5, and then DevRel, they're all very hands-on folk there. So actually, most of the DevRel advocates we have contribute content and even write some of the labs to a lesser or greater extent. So that probably adds, I'll say, another score. But some are newer to Instruqt, and some have been doing it for maybe a year. And even within that, it's very interesting, because we do spend a lot of time with people as they start and they're asking questions, and we try and onboard even the sub teams, share the content. But frankly, once they've seen enough examples, they tend to run off and do it themselves, and only ask for or pay attention to the new features when we share them.
Right. So in both of your cases, though, content creation isn't necessarily siloed. There is content creation spread across multiple folks.
I have, in terms of people with content creator access within the SA and CA orgs, I think I have 150.
Wow, definitely at scale. All right, let's transition to another question here. Let's go on to number 6. So of course, as more people adopt labs, things can get pretty messy. I think, Amanda, you referred to it as chaos. So with the fact that labs can multiply really quickly, how do you create a single source of truth without slowing teams down? And where do you draw the line between giving people autonomy to create that content versus control to make sure things don't get too chaotic?
You want me to take that one first?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So I love the chaos because it means people are excited to create. Like I said, I have 150 content creators that are making things, and we never, ever, ever want to stop that. So one of our very talented engineers did a homegrown solution on React, which is a web portal that uses Instruqt's very open API to do literally everything. So he will publish, and this has been passed over to our infrastructure team, but he did our first prototype. He will publish anything that we can consider production ready. We have a production ready, we have a staging, we have an archive. And what this does is it gives a front page for everything that I trust. This is a golden standard. I know I can put it in front of a customer tomorrow workshop. And this also does several things for us. We wanted to have this be a data analytics backed solution. So we tag that to a Salesforce account. We get analytics on it. We have a calendar where people can see if one of their teammates is running a workshop. Marketing uses this portal as well to see what they can start running with their customers. And all of this also flows through to control our hot starts so that we can make sure that we are not wasting any hot starts or infrastructure usage as well. So it really is a very elegant solution to almost like a front page so that somebody isn't going and seeing, the 500 different workshops in the background that people are custom making for their customers. You can still select that and run it through the front portal, but this helps us keep a single source of truth. It keeps that velocity high, but it still allows us to keep that creativity on the back end until, folders and some other organization come forward from Instruqt. This will help us keep that solution. So
Great. I like the embrace the chaos mentality. And I think that portal is definitely something I would love to get a demo of at some point, and I think others internally would too. So, Owen, what about you? What are you kind of doing to rein in some of the chaos, but not kill the creativity?
Well, I suppose one of the things we do is we have a tiered set of environments, similarly projects and Instruqt for each of the groups, so that they can start in a development and move to production, and tie that all together with source control, so that again, everything is reviewed and cross-reviewed by however, if there are DIIs for particular topic areas and particular sets of labs in that team, that they're all reviewed and approved in GitHub and then elevated up into the production environment. Cross-cutting, we have various regular meetings across the teams and between all the teams using Instruqt, so that everyone is kept aligned of the latest features, who's building what the next quarter and the next 2 quarters typically of content being created is, because often we've actually shortcutted. If we say we're going to build this quarter and another team had planned to do it in 2 quarters, they'll just take our stuff or the majority of our stuff and jumpstart. And again, that goes back to that content sharing. So that has been incredibly helpful in a kind of cross-cutting thing, because one of our big cross-org projects is the skills initiative. As we're setting the skills objectives, the learning objectives, that has allowed us at a very meta level to control the content in terms of the workshop and the videos, right down to the hands-on practical lab. So that's at a very high level. And down below, kind of, we have most of this in at least the on-demand offerings, and even for those live offerings, or some are going to be repurposed for on-demand as well. We have our learning management system, and we have a whole catalog and asset management process for our videos and our labs within that. So we manage it through that as well.
Right.
Now, it's not perfect. We could do more. But because we're managing it at those various levels, it is chaotic. There is a sprawl, but it's somewhat managed. I think I agree. I'd love to see the system another day, Amanda.
Nice. Cool. Well, I want to be conscious of time. I do want to just quickly, I think maybe we'll do rapid fire here. We'll do question number 9. I'll have Tyler jump ahead for us. So in thinking about, that maybe the next 1 to 3 years for you guys and your use of hands-on labs, what are some things or one specific thing that you're really looking forward to implementing with your labs?
I'll take it first. We are very excitedly moving to a centralized sandbox system, which is my biggest piece of advice if anybody is looking to scale, is make sure you land on a couple sandboxes you can scale as quickly as your product does. And we're going to just continue to refine all that content, write some content guides so that we can publish what good looks like for our creators, all 150 plus and growing creators.
We're obviously the product. I won't say everyone, almost everyone is identifying their offerings in some form. We have made acquisitions. We have features we'd like to explore in that, and obviously we'd like to move all of our content into supporting that. In terms of the actual sort of content plans, our skills initiative is now moving out to target ops teams and kind of the platform teams. We've done a lot of work on developers, and maybe MongoDB University for the past few years has been kind of developer centric. So we want to try and bring in more of that content and do the hands-on for that, because there is a lot of learning with, and it's the same with Elastic. They're complex systems, and to teach some of those ops and platform teams, when something goes wrong, you want a system, you want to break some of the nodes and say, can you fix that? So we're looking at that, and we're looking also at, some of and I'll give a shout out to the Cisco acquired Killiam for their lovely world map and characters. We'd love to do that. In our skills initiative, we do tie to Credly, so we're very eager to sort of tie that back to Instruqt as well.
Nice.
But yeah, it's mainly trying to look at the roles and just bring in kind of those other kind of more complex hands-on scenarios, because a lot of, you go to our content today, it's quite developer centric, but we want to use Instruqt to test those other things which we know it can do, and we have in some other parts of the company.
Great. That's awesome. Well, we've still actually got a few people hanging on here. So I want to ask you one last question. We're just going to skip to 10 here. Maybe again, kind of forward looking as we've had people do across our sessions today. How do you see the role of hands-on learning platforms, in this case, obviously Instruqt, how do you see that evolving at a higher level for the industry? Kind of what role do you see that playing in the future? Eoin, or whoever.
All right,
Go ahead, Eoin.
I would just, I think one of the things, and again, it's back to what LMSs and learning management systems are doing. As you consume content, and we tag all of these assets, so we know the different pieces you've learned. It's basically looking at an analysis and saying, what should you learn next? And then as we suggest those and build up more knowledge on that, it will be like highly personalized content based, firstly maybe on an assessment and then on consumption. And I think that is something, it's a feature in some of the LMSs. We haven't maybe used it as much as we should, but I think that is going to answer the question. When you have a larger catalog or a larger set of skills and labs available, I've done 4 or 5. What do I do next? And hopefully the computer will tell you and say, hey, this is the next ideal one for you, Sean.
Yeah, that's definitely something we've talked about internally on our side too, how we can make that easier to recommend content for learners. How about you, Amanda?
I was actually going to tie into that as well, because I see Instruqt as not just a isolated point in a buyer's journey. It's all the way from lead all the way to getting them onboarded in terms of marketing, sales, and actual learning of how to use the product itself. So as AI continues to evolve, like how can we start using AI more effectively to target content and enrich that buyer journey all the way from start to completion? And then I also see this happening with some of our demo platforms as well, as AI is starting to help us create content too. So how can we start using AI with existing content we've got with Instruqt, with maybe understanding what's going on with our customer journey, take a look at our documentation, start to build some of these workshops, or at least accelerate that building of the workshops to continue to get that speed and scale at which we can implement Instruqt.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you guys for hanging on a few extra minutes here. I really appreciate it. I know we are over time, and here on the East Coast it's lunchtime. Eoin, I think for you it's probably happy hour. I know it's only Tuesday, but I think it's allowed. So a big thank you to both of you. A big thank you to your cat, Amanda, as well, who made a cameo. And obviously a big thank you to StateShift as our sponsor today. Big thank you to Arun again for leading us with the keynote today. Anybody has questions, you can obviously reach out to us. You can go to our website, you can scan the QR code, you can sign up for a demo, you can do you can take a tour of the product on our website as well. And that's all we have for you today. So thank you for taking a couple hours out of your Tuesday to learn a little bit more about hands-on. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
John.
See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.